It's time for a miracle.
Tell me about growing up in Poughkeepsie.
Poughkeepsie was a lot of fun. I would not want to have grown up anywhere else. The friends I had going to Poughkeepsie Middle School, Poughkeepsie High School, at the time, I wasn't very focused on school, so I probably could have made better decisions at a younger age to set me up for life a little bit better. I didn't graduate high school. I had to go to Upward Bound. I don't know if they still have that. It's a program,
Yeah.
like a college prep program that they did at Marist, and I actually had to go there to finish my credits to be able to graduate from high school. But I loved growing up in Poughkeepsie. I always be fond of memories that I had there.
At at what point did you realize that you had to move forward and begin your journey, essentially?
Well, I will say that living in Poughkeepsie, um, that when I started to have ambitions outside of my environment, because my environment uh, allowed me to drink, smoke, and hang out all day, but there weren't a lot of opportunities within Poughkeepsie to grow as an artist, a creative, an entrepreneur. I'm hoping that has changed in the last 2 decades. Um, but back then, when I was coming up, and when I started to develop this change, which primarily started with the local public access show called Eye on It, which we aired on I think it was Channel 23 on Time Warner Cable. Um, and then subsequently I founded Guns for Cameras, a charity to take guns off the streets. I didn't receive um, support from the city officials. Actually, they tried to stop the charity organization that I was doing, and they try to label me a criminal, right? They said that Guns for Cameras was starting a new gang. So the amount of ignorance in politics, when they're supposed to be fixing these problems or providing resources or solutions, or mitigating some of these issues, they're actually preventing community members who are stepping up with initiatives. So again, I hope that something else has changed um, since that time. And probably in the last 10 years, one of the mayors has recognized my work after leaving Poughkeepsie, and has proclamated a day in my name. There's Jesus Day in Poughkeepsie,
Mm.
which is pretty cool. And now, after doing a short film with Poughkeepsie High School last year, and the Board of Education, we're looking at possibly doing something else. I may be coming back this winter or early next year to doing another initiative. So you heard it here first on Real Talk. I don't know when this edit is going to get out, but we're in talks with the mayor now, the current mayor, and Debbie from the Board of Ed.
Where did the idea for Ionic come from? Slash, where did the hunger to become a creator start?
So Eye on It was a TV show that I created, and the IT stands for inspirational television. So the Eye on It is this Eye on It. There it is. There's the logo, Eye on It. The Eye on It is this idea that I'm creating content that when people see it, they're inspired by what they see. It was a hip hop based show, so we featured local artists. The whole premise of the show was to do all these other packages in the industry and events behind the scenes on major music videos, and backstage at concerts, and all this stuff with the glitz and the glamour and the celebrities. But that was to draw people to the show, and the main portion of the show was an in studio segment where we interviewed local artists. So the whole concept of the show was to build this hype to then bring the attention to the local artists and then to give them a platform to grow. And the idea around Eye on It was to highlight local artists because, 20 years ago, there was a big disconnect between entertainment and the streets. Like if you were in the streets, you were really in the streets. Now today, the lines are blurred. It's like there's people who are in music that are pretending to be in the streets and they're not, and then there's people who are in the streets that are in music seriously. And but there was definitely a divide between those two different worlds and realities. And a lot of friends that I had were in the streets, but some were into music, but they didn't take it serious. And for me, if they just see themselves on local television, I was hoping that would get them a step further to taking it serious and pursuing it. So after being shot at, I started Eye on It. A lot of my friends laughed at me. They said, "You don't know anything about production." Again, because of that disconnect, it wasn't a reality to go to school or college or know anything about cameras or computers or, today everybody has access to a computer via their phone, right? We're all online, we're all on the internet, we're all on social media. Yeah, so in starting the show, I wanted to create something to change the mindset of my peers. After I was shot, it wasn't the first time I was in a shootout, but that incident, I was a lot closer to death. After I was shot, I started to look at my community in general and think about why we were senselessly killing each other. And I started to realize that there was nobody above us in our station in life and in government and wherever. There was no one above us that looked at the situation and was like, this needs to change. Like nobody cared. They did not care that we were just killing each other. And then what was more alarming that I realized is that we didn't care. We kind of got programmed and conditioned to the mindset. We just didn't care. And that was the birth of my entire career, my passion. Like even to today, everything I do is around social impact content. Like if I'm creating content, it has to serve a purpose because, one, I'm in overtime. I'm supposed to be dead. I'm not supposed to be alive today. Being shot at 22 times when I was 22 years old, 22 in the morning. I still got a 22 slug in me, even though I got hit by 9 or 45. I mean, I definitively am supposed to be dead. So anything after that is like time I feel like I'm just giving back. And then the power and the change that I've saw in being able to create different narratives in media. Why would I want to do anything else? Like making a film or a commercial or something for money, it only serves me in a very immediate and narrow purpose. But if I'm creating something that's going to inspire 10, 20, 1,000, a million people to change their lives, to better their lives, to have some sort of hope and inspiration, like that's the point of art. Art should be used for social good and for people to be able to reflect on the beauty in life, not for profit.
What was the deciding factor that split the atom for you that other people might not have gotten, or they got it when it was too late?
The deciding factor was after doing something that I was just passionate about to make a difference. The deciding factor was that realizing that this is what I was truly talented at. So I would have never discovered it any other way. And so many people go throughout life not knowing their purpose or knowing their true talent, right? You go to school and you learn one thing, you don't know what you really want to do. You kind of have an idea that you just want to be successful or you want to own something. But the problem today is a lot of people don't know what they're really good at. And when I created Eye on It, this show just like took off. I had within 6 months, without having any production skills, experience, background, education, like I just dove right in, made something, and it not make something mediocre. I mean, it was hot. Like it was the hottest thing in the industry. I independently syndicated on the Northeast. Within 6 months, I had every major artist on the show, from Jay-Z to 50 Cent to whoever was popping back in 2002, 2001, 2002, 2003. Those were the the time frame I was doing the show.
Mm-hmm.
And it took off in such a way that I started getting so much attention, and then record labels and other people were reaching out to me like, yo, the production is hot. They weren't even looking at it that like, this is a positive show and you're doing this for the community. They were just like, it's dope the way it's shot, the way it's edited. And that's a big deal for me to be up against other filmmakers who might be, you know, major studios or NYU graduates or, you know, whatever. And I'm in this independent, you know, small project shooting on high 8mm little tapes, you know, borrowing people's editing, going to places to sneak in and edit and not even having a hard drive, going tape to tape, like, and making something hot with limited resources. That just showed that, wow, I'm really, you know, humble brag, but it's like, I'm really good at this. And there's not many people that are better than me. And, you know, with no resources. And I mean, to the degree that I've been blessed and it was miraculous that I survived death, I've also had, you know, a miraculous career, you know, from starting off from these humble beginnings, no education, high school dropout, and supposed to have been dead to, you know, years later being vetted to run Puffy's $800 million empire as his executive producer, you know, producing multi-million-dollar commercials for Ciroc and Sean John and DeLeon, to opening the first film studio in the Bronx. Like these are, you know, major accomplishments, being honored by 2 presidents of the United States. So the only reason I even talk about those things is because it's not that I've accomplished that. It's that in relation to where I started. I don't know any other filmmaker with the level of adversity that I had, combined with the level of accomplishment. And I speak about that openly to youth to let them know it doesn't matter who you are or where you start, you're capable of reaching your highest dream. Because the things I'm doing today, I could never even would imagine, you know, when I was on a corner smoking a blunt and Poughkeepsie, or riding my bike down Main Street. Everybody in Poughkeepsie back then knows me for my motorcycle. I was had a few high speed chases with 12 up there. So wheeling down Main Street, smoking a blunt, holding a drink. I mean, these are all things that I do not condone and not cool in any way, but it was just to the degree of how ignorant, irresponsible, and reckless I was. And, you know, I was able to turn that all around and now, you know, try to shed positive light on other people that, like, look, if you take yourself seriously and you take your opportunities, even if they're not given to you, like, create your own opportunities. Nobody gave me a show. Nobody was like, hey, here, you want to make the show? I had to beg, scrape, borrow, steal. Like, you know, I had nothing. My first camcorder I had, my boy Tico was working at Walmart, and he went into he was in the stock room, and I never said this anywhere on record, but he tucked the little 8mm. I mean, it was probably like a $300 camera. It wasn't like a big deal, but I didn't have a camera. He's like, yo, you know, everybody laughing at you, think you want to get out the street and do production, but I got you. Like, he gave me that little camera.
That's crazy.
I shot probably my first 2 episodes of that little high 8 tape, and, you know, but then, you know, then it's like I started, the show was hot, and then I started doing gigs, and then I just, you know, started buying all the right equipment, right? And I had the official tissue cameras, and I was doing it. Now I got red cameras and RE, so but it's, I mean, humble beginnings to,
Yeah.
you know, everyone starts somewhere.
What accomplishment has been the biggest eye opener, like in terms of seeing that rise and from that curve?
I mean, the thing I'm most proud of is just having kids. Like, all my friends had kids super early. You know, one of my friends, I'm not gonna say his name, I think he had like 3 kids by the time he was 17. Like everybody was having kids young, and then you kind of go through that phase. And I got to my 30s, I still didn't have kids, and then now at late 30s, I finally started having kids. So, you know, the thing of course I'm most proud of is my daughter, my son, and nothing in my career compares to that. So, you know, being a parent, and I'm glad it happened way later in life, because I was starting, you know, from the mud, and I had to grind so much. You know, I had to work, you know, crazy hours, and had to just try to build, you know, something out of nothing. I had all that time to just focus on the work. I couldn't imagine having kids at a younger age and having to parent and having a balance. And I know a lot of people are in that circumstance. And I don't know if I would have been as successful if I would have had to manage that balance. Not that you can't have a career and have kids, but for me, to the degree that I was trying to get it, as ambitious as I was and as hardworking I was, I didn't have time for girls. I didn't have time for partying. I ate, slept, breathed. Everything was eye on it 24/7. And everybody that knew me back then knew that. And my drive was so, laser focused.
After Eye on It, what was the next step after that?
So I went from having an office in Poughkeepsie, and I opened an office in Harlem. And then in 2005, I started Guns for Cameras. I did a lot of, I managed the different artists, did a lot of marketing, did some advertising stuff, launched a couple TV shows that went on to some major networks. And then in 2011, I opened up Shoot HR, the first film studio in the Bronx. And I went and worked with Puff for a couple of years. And in 2015, I launched Creative Gods, which is today my production company and ad agency. And then last year I wanted to, give back in a more direct and meaningful way. So I founded the SICK Film School, SIC, which stands for Social Impact Content. So today I'm working on Suicide Saint, which is a production of Creative Gods. It's focused on mental health. We are also doing SICK Film School with a couple different partners. One of them being Sean Combs' foundation. We're doing some courses accredited by the state of New York with Capital Prep in Harlem. And I'm thinking about bringing back Guns for Cameras after our recent partnership with the United Nations for my film Suicide Saint. We were just honored as part of their 40 Days Safer City Challenge. They picked one organization from a different place around the world, and we were day number 20, which fell on World Mental Health Day. So we represented the entirety of the United States within that one day, because the other 39 days were different parts of the world. And I represented, as part of their observation of World Mental Health Day, I represented that for the UN in Suicide Saint being a world-leading example on how to utilize arts to improve communities and for violence prevention and what leads to safer cities.
So when will Suicide Saints be released?
Suicide Saint is in production now, and we're looking at a fourth quarter release next year.
Ooh, okay. What can you talk about with the movie?
Not much, because I'm top secret with the creative. I will say that there's two lead characters played by Ron Aviator Watson and Andrew Jacobs, and the two main characters being Vincent Cross and Thomas Meadow, and they have their respective issues that they deal with in terms of mental illnesses. But the film, it's a sci-fi, super spiritual, psychological drama. And the film is not just a story. It's not just a narrative. It's a visually immersive experience. So when you watch this, it's going to be like nothing else you've ever seen in terms of the depth of your emotional reaction to the film.
And with that said, what do you have to say to the people? Where can we find you? Socials, everything.
Oh, Hezeus R. HEZUESR. HezeusR.com. Hezeus R. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube is all the same. All at Hezeus R. And of course, you could always check me on Mar Productions, MP.
It's perfect. And with that, I want to thank you for sharing the inspiration on Real Talk. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, man. Keep doing what you're doing. Can't wait to see you rise the ranks and establish yourself in the industry.
Yes, I'm gonna try to be like you.
You're gonna be greater than me, brother. You're way ahead of me.
time for a miracle.